Hello, welcome back to Esoteric Ramblings. I'm Jesse Arnold, and today I'm giving you my reaction to WandaVision Episode 8. Hey everybody, welcome back to Esoteric Ramblings. So glad you're here. I just finished watching Episode 8 of WandaVision, and oh boy, what an episode. It is the longest episode so far. It's about 10 minutes longer than the previous ones. So if the internet is correct, next week's episode should be significantly longer. If not, no big deal. I'm perfectly fine with it being as long as this week's episode. It feels like they have a lot of ground to cover in the last remaining episode. So, yeah. I will be doing spoilers with a warning here in just a couple minutes. So keep your eye out for that warning. If you don't want to see or hear spoilers, you're not going to see spoilers, you'll hear them for the episode. But yeah, again, it's kind of hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, but it's great performances. I think Kathryn Hahn and Elizabeth Olsen really steal this episode. Their performances in this are so good, with the way that they left things off last week. And I can just say, with the way they've got things positioned at the end of this week's episode, you know, they're kind of setting the board for, as they've talked about online from actors and different things, you know, kind of the classic MCU movie style finale. So since this is the first show, I'm really excited to see what that looks like. Yeah, lots of theories going around, lots of things getting called into question out here in the world about the show, and yeah, you will definitely get some answers this week's episode. Again, I'm not going to spoil them. They're at least yet. You do get some answers. There's a lot of cool stuff in this episode, and I think just, again, really stellar performances from Elizabeth Olsen and Kathryn Hahn, who have been delivering great performances the whole series. This episode just really took it to a different level, I think, and yeah, I really can't wait to see where it all goes next. Yeah. That said, I will say this: keep your eyes open. There's some really cool things that happen that you might want to pause for. I say just watch the whole episode of WandaVision and then rewind and check for some things, because like every episode, there's tons of cool little references and things, and I'm sure there's things I've missed, and there are some things that were probably Easter eggs that I didn't know were Easter eggs, because as much as I love this stuff, I am not an all-knowing expert on these particular characters, or any characters for that matter. I've just been doing this a while, the reading comics and these movies and everything, so I have my ideas and opinions. They're not always right, but it's fun. I'm loving it. This is great. Yeah, so that said, spoilers are incoming now. So last week's episode, we got the reveal that a lot of us were not surprised by as far as the info in the reveal, but I think the reveal of Agnes being Agatha was so cleverly done and very playful and fun. Yeah, I thought that was, like, I've had that stupid little, not stupid, that catchy little Munsters-esque theme song stuck in my head all week. And, you know, Agatha all along, just like bouncing around up in here. So, yeah, that was a great reveal. And this episode picks up actually with a flashback to some of Agatha's origins. So we cut back to Salem, Massachusetts, I think it was 1692. I don't remember the title card specifically. It was 1690 something, and that moment shifted very quickly from what I thought it was going to be into something else that was really interesting. And you know, we get a little more background on her, which I think was really cool. And then it cuts into the current story where she's got Wanda in the basement. So I think what happened was, the end of last week's episode, you see Agatha put the purple hex on Wanda and her eyes go purple. I think she was showing her what this week's episode started off with. I think she was showing her this glimpse into her past. Because Wanda immediately after this opening scene ends, Wanda tries to get into Agatha's mind, and she's like, "Oh, you can't do it," and points out all the rules about being a witch. So clearly, they're hinting that, or suggesting that Wanda is an actual witch of some sort, and or at least Agatha thinks she is, and wants to know how she's doing the things she's doing. So you get a kind of whole "This Is Your Life." The episode is called Previously On, and we go through we hit all of Wanda's big traumas, and like a lot of people have speculated, all the ads have been keyed into those speculative moments. Interestingly enough, I think the island episode, the little island commercial with the kid and the yogurt and the shark and the kid shriveling, I think that might tie to Wanda. It might have something to do with Agatha. We'll see. We'll see if they resolve that, because there's some stuff in that first scene, which I won't spoil that entirely because it's really cool to see. So Agatha starts leading Wanda through like her hall of horrors of the traumas of her life, and you start off with her parents in their Sokovia apartment, and we get the establishment of why Wanda loves these sitcoms, why all of this stuff is going on the way it is in Westview, because her dad had this suitcase full of American sitcom DVDs, and they watched them as a family to practice their English, and it's just this really sweet and adorable moment, and I just know, like, this is going to be the moment when the bombs fall on their building. And it is, and it's even though I knew it was coming, it was still powerful and shocking. This was a gut-wrecking episode of emotions, and making Wanda, I'm laughing just because I have to push that aside to be able to get through this video. And I know it's just a show and it's all make-believe, but like, it's so well done. But just the traumas this character of Wanda has gone through in her life, fueling all this, like every reveal through this like procession of memories. So you've got that, you've got her experimentation by Hydra in the lab with the Loki scepter with the Mind Stone in it, which has some really cool stuff. I don't want to spoil everything, which has some really cool stuff in that moment. Which kind of alters but does not negate what we've seen in the movie so far. It's one of those, it's a clever retcon, whether this was the intention all along or they were able to work it in. They've crafted it beautifully. Let's see. So from there, and then you get a moment with Wanda and Vision in the Avengers compound after the events of Age of Ultron. So she's in the same room where we see Cap talking to her in Civil War and all that, and it's just a nice bonding moment that kind of establishes a little more of the connection between them, between the events of Age of Ultron and Civil War. So it was nice to see kind of the beginning of their friendship relationship in that moment. Where did it go after that? I think from there it went right into the sword, because each memory is through a door in the room that changes into a doorway of the next memory, and from there she went into sword, and that event does not play out the way director Hayward led us and the rest of the cast or the characters in the show to believe when he showed that footage, because it's very cleverly edited footage, but it doesn't happen the way he said it happened. And I wish I would have said something about his project that they mentioned last week, Project Cataract, but I didn't. I think I forgot to say something about that. Not that I think it's a mystery what that project was, but I just wish I would have said something about it. So from there, you see this is some of the most powerful stuff in the episode. You see Wanda leave. There's an envelope on the seat of her car, and she drives away from Sword. She doesn't have Vision's body. She didn't take it. That is a complete outright lie from director Hayward, which makes me wonder I started to think, I was like, all right, he's just, kind of the military man, the career man. He's doing what he thinks is right, even if he's kind of blinded by, duty and chain of command and all that. But I feel, in that moment, I was like, all right, maybe there's something more to him, because he's definitely, like, needling her and pushing her in those scenes, which we don't see in the video that he showed them. So I was like, all right, is there more to this guy than I think? Like, I don't know if he's Mephisto in disguise, but I was like, is there more to this guy than what I'm thinking he is, than just this military guy? I don't know. That's kind of how that moment ends, and she goes to her car and she drives away. And she drives into Westview, New Jersey. And the fun little thing, her license plate on her car says New York, and it says Excelsior. The classic Stanley catchphrase. And she's driving through town, and we see a lot of the cast of the WandaVision show that she was broadcasting just out doing their mundane daily lives in this little town that looks like it's half abandoned and falling apart, in this little forgotten town. And she drives through the neighborhood. She pulls into, like, the suburb street, and there's this ruined lot where there's nothing built. There's a foundation and a driveway, but there's nothing built. And she opens the letter, and it's a deed that she and Vision bought this house, or he bought it for her. It must have happened. The letter must have come to her after the events of Infinity War, or it was just something we didn't see on camera in Infinity War. And there's this huge heart drawn in the middle of it on the plot of land, and it says, like, to grow old together. And she just loses it. She falls over in agony, and the red hex power comes out of her, and it starts building the house, and then it transforms the whole town. And this is where I was saying there's some moments to pause. There's some interesting things. I will say one of them I caught, because I thought it said something else, and I wanted to double check. I thought I saw something on the movie theater marquee that said something about the Inhumans. I was like, okay, are we going to try to bring them back in at some point, with Ms. Marvel coming? Are they going to change her background? Are they going to have her still be an Inhuman? I'm interested to see how that all is. So I rewound after the episode to check this out, and it said, the Tannhauser Gate puts the fun in dysfunction. And I was like, Tannhauser Gate, I know that. What is that? And I had to look it up. It's a reference to Blade Runner, and the expression about, like, that was a battle or a campaign. Please forgive me, I've only watched Blade Runner like once or twice. It's a really dense movie. And I don't have it memorized, and I don't have all the details stored up here. But it talks, the quote I saw says something about the Tannhauser Gate and how he flew with ships, gypsy ships with the Russians, which I just think is really interesting to make that reference, because in some regards, Wanda has been portrayed as a Romani or as a gypsy in the comics, and of that culture, and the Russians, being so close to Sokovia. Sokovia has a very Russia-like feel to it, so, or at least elements of Russia to it. So it was just an interesting reference. I don't think it means anything, because it was in the real world before she altered stuff. But then the movie marquee changes to Big Red and Kidnapped. So we'll see if that means anything, because it seems like all the movies playing there have all been about dysfunctional families, or not dysfunctional families just, but references to things, because The Incredibles and what was the other one in the Halloween episode? I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, the town changes, and we see, the house get turned into the 50 sitcom reality that she, is experiencing. And then she makes Vision out of her own body. It looks like Vision is a part of her. And it kind of goes back to the very beginning of the series. It's really beautiful. And then, of course, it snaps out of it, and it comes back to the now, and it's Agatha sitting in an audience chamber clapping, like on a live studio audience set. And she's talking about Wanda's powers, and because she's trying to figure out how Wanda did what she did, because like I said, she thinks she's a witch and all this stuff, and she's like putting all these pieces together to figure out how, because she, I guess, wants to either use Wanda's powers, take Wanda's powers, bring her into alignment with her. I'm not sure what her goal is. But then, she disappears, and you hear Billy and Tommy calling for Wanda. She runs out onto the street, and we're still in the actual, movie aspect ratio. So this is all happening to her. And Agatha's got them on like purple leashes. She's in like her full, like collared with her full kind of like witch costume. And I think she's got some extra makeup. She looks, definitely more witchy than she has before. And Wanda's out there, and Agatha drops the huge bomb that she's like, you are using chaos magic. That is how you're doing this. And that means you're the Scarlet Witch. You're only a myth or a legend. You're not supposed to really exist. So they drop the name. They drop chaos magic. So it'll be really cool to see where that goes. What if we get to see a little more of what that means? And then there's a zinger in the credits where we cut back to Hayward and the Sword crew. And they're like, all right, we've taken this thing apart a million ways, put it back together, and we can't get it to work. I guess it just needed some power from the source. And you see he's got that Stark drone that's still radiating with the red hex magic energy. And they hook it up to this device, and it channels it into a tube containing the all-white version of Vision from the comics. So it's not the grayed-out version we saw of him dead, but it's like an all-white. And the power, it powers him up. He kind of changes a little bit, and the stone turns, I think it was like a bluish glow, because it's not the actual Mind Stone, of course. So I feel like all the pieces have been set for next week's episode. You've got Wanda facing off against Agatha. You've got Pietro, or Fietro, as Agatha called him in this episode, and Monica side by side at the door. So I imagine this is pretty immediately after that. And you've got Cataract's Vision, the all-white Vision, because, and Wanda's Vision is trapped outside of town, so the other Vision is going to have to come through the hex to get to them, because I think Hayward wants to take out Wanda, doesn't know anything about Agatha. So yeah, I think that sets the stage. I'm really excited to see who the hero cameo is, or the character cameo is, in the next episode, that Paul Bettany said he's wanted to work with his whole life. So I don't know if that's a character we already know from the movies, or if it's a completely new character. I don't know. I'm really excited to see who that is. Yeah, and it's just so good. It's just such a good show. I really enjoy it. I can't wait for it. I'm going to be sad when it's over. Just the level of a show they're spending on dealing with someone who's going through grief and trauma is really interesting. We got a little of that with Thor in Endgame, which I thought was great. But now this is a whole show dedicated to one character experiencing this, and with those powers and everything, how they're dealing with it. It's just really interesting that they're going there with some of these things, and it's not just sock bam pow action movies. So bravo Marvel and Disney Plus for doing this. So that's it for my ramble. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. I had some other things I wanted to say, but my mind's running blank, and I have to get to work. So you have a great day, and I'll see you back here on Esoteric Ramblings next time.